there! Welcome to part 2. So in part 1 we looked at R. John Holmgren and the cover image that I'm copying. And this section, number 2, right here, we're going to look at domestic science and home economics and what those actually are. And in part 3 we're going to look at something called the Colonial Revival. And in number 4 we're going to try to bring it up to today. Let's give it a go! This lady looks like she's fixing up a chair for her home. Seems pretty reasonable on a few different levels. Fixing up an old chair is cheaper than buying a new one, and in the early 20th century, household budgeting was often a responsibility for the woman of the house. Those womanly responsibilities were actually formalized into a science, domestic science, and could be studied in schools under the banner of home economics. There's a really good book called Selling Mrs. Consumer, Christine Frederick and the Rise of Household Efficiency by Janice Williams Rutherford that I highly recommend if you'd like to learn more about the trend of making the roles of wife and mother into a career. This is still a valid role to fill that many women enjoy, and some high schools still offer home ec courses where you can learn the basics of cooking, sewing, and often how to balance a checkbook. Culture has broadened, though, and women can do other things in addition or in place of being a wife and/or mother, if they choose to. Here are some sweeping generalizations about time and production to give some helpful context. When factories and machines started to take a hold of the country, many people became more interested in convenience and time. Time measurement was standardized in the mid-19th century as a way to keep trains running on a single uniform schedule. Trains transported goods and people. Travel and production schedules, which also related to manufacturing jobs, were tied to train schedules and increased the number of people paying attention to time. And as factories started to produce more and more goods, time, efficiency, and sales numbers were used as measurements of success. People like Fred W. Taylor, who invented Taylorism, or, quote, a factory management system developed in the late 19th century to increase efficiency by evaluating every step in a manufacturing process and breaking down production into specialized repetitive tasks, end quote, and Henry Ford, with his assembly line method, created systems that maximize productivity by minimizing the time it took to produce something, thereby increasing the amount able to be produced in a day. That new emphasis on science and efficiency made its way into homes through people like Christine Frederick. Her entire career was built on promoting the premise that a woman's place was in the home as a wife and a mother. Since this was a woman's job, she should take it very seriously. Tasks should be handled using all the modern conveniences available to her so she could spend more time with her husband and children. And an interesting twist of logic, Frederick employed domestic workers to take care of her own family as she frequently traveled to give lectures and supported her family by writing articles about how a wife and mother should remain in the home and not pursue other careers. That's neither here nor there, but an interesting paradox, as is much of history and humanity. As the scientific approach to things picked up, all sorts of new goods and advertising trends entered the market to help a wife and mother through her day. These often emphasized the incorporation of labor-saving machines like dishwashers and washing machines for clothes in the name of household efficiency, or elevated long-held practices like baking into a formal science. One of the most successful advertising campaigns that capitalized on this former trend was produced by Gold Medal Flour. A fledgling wheat miller, Cadwallader Washburn entered his flour into a high-profile competition in Cincinnati, Ohio in 1880, where it won a gold medal, after which he chose to name his highest-grade flour. Gold medal flour was initially sold in barrels, then cloth bags, then, due to rationing during World War I, paper bags. In 1925, Gold Medal Flour began to test their baking flour in company kitchens. The staff of Gold Medal domestic scientists would use the flour in food to ensure its quality before it was shipped. Running parallel to the test kitchen, Gold Medal expanded their advertising campaigns during the 1920s to include a radio program that carried cooking and baking content, and supported a Gold Medal home service department that would answer customers' baking and cooking questions. The advertising department manager responsible for answering those questions was Samuel Gale and his all-male staff. Since women were the ones writing in and the kitchen was largely a woman's place, Gail thought a woman should respond and signed the department letters as Betty Crocker. Soon this fictitious character was portrayed in advertisements, giving advice on the gold medal radio show, hosting bake-offs, offering home economic certification programs, writing cookbooks, and giving scholarships to young women to attend universities. You can still buy Betty Crocker baking mixes at the store, and you can read all about her history in Finding Betty Crocker, The Secret Life of America's First Lady of Food by Susan Marks. But while Christine Frederick's career was groundbreaking and her embrace of technology and science were very modern, her message was one that spoke to an ever-present line of traditionalism and desire for old-fashioned ways that often go hand in hand with change. We'll see where this image falls within that range next time. Later, Gators!